He wasn't speeding, he didn't run a red light, he didn't weave through traffic or pop a wheelie, he just rode calm and smooth down the open highway. On a dusty black bike that looked like it belonged to another era, but that didn't. Stopped the cruiser's lights from flashing in his mirrors. The motorcycle slowed and pulled to the shoulder just outside a sleepy town lined with mom-man-pop shops and rusted mailboxes. A welcome to Ridgefield sign swayed gently behind him. The man kicked down the stand, engine still humming beneath him, steady hands on the grips. 2 officers stepped out of the patrol car, both young, both tense. One of them, Officer Rachel Parks, barely 30, mirrored aviators hiding her eyes. The other officer, Danny Cruz, tried to act relaxed, but the way he rested his hand near his taser said otherwise. Parks approached with clipped steps, license and registration, and step off the vehicle now. The man didn't flinch. Looked forward, his face weathered but calm, the kind of calm you don't earn from peace, but from surviving chaos. His black leather jacket was faded. His boots had seen 1,000 roads. The motorcycle, a 1965 Royal Enfield Interceptor, growled softly beneath him like a loyal hound. "Sir, off the bike, hands where I can see them." Still no movement, just a slow blink. Then his hand, steady as stone, reached into his inside pocket and pulled out a worn leather wallet. Everything was tucked inside: license, registration, even a laminated VA card. Rachel Parks narrowed her eyes as she read the ID. Victor Kane, 81 years old. Seriously, Cruz let out a short laugh. Is this thing even road legal? Looks like it came out of a museum. Parks glanced over the bike, then back at Kane. "What are you doing out here, sir? Don't you think you're a bit old to be riding around on something like this?" Victor Kane finally spoke. His voice was low. Unbothered, heading into town. Tractor broke down. Need a hydraulic seal? It wasn't the answer she expected. It wasn't defiance. It was just ... quiet truth, but it made her defensive. Step off the bike. We need to conduct a safety inspection. You could be a danger to yourself or others. The crowd started to form. It always does. A few locals stepped out of their stores. A man with a coffee cup paused on the sidewalk. A teenager pointed a phone in their direction. Cruz muttered under his breath. He looks confused, maybe senile, probably doesn't even realize how dangerous this is. But Victor Kane heard every word. He'd been a paratrooper in Vietnam, a commanding officer in Panama, an advisor in Iraq. The jungle had tried to kill him, so had snipers, car bombs, and bureaucracy. Now here he was, getting judged by 2 rookies who didn't even know how to read the story written on his scars. "Sir, we're going to have to bring you in for evaluation," Parks said. "It's not safe for you to be operating any kind of motor vehicle." Victor slowly got off the bike. Not because he was told, but because he wanted to. He stood straight, tall, his shadow stretching long under the midday sun. A faint creak came from his knees, but not his voice. On what charge? Parks hesitated. The charge didn't matter, the optics did. The videos being filmed did, elder safety protection, and suspicious behavior. Suspicious, you pulled me over for riding slow on an old highway. Cruz stepped in. "It's not just that, sir. We've had reports about unfamiliar vehicles. Yours fits the description." It was a lie, and a weak one. And Victor knew it. Across the street, an older man stepped out of the hardware store. Don Miller, Vietnam vet, owned the place for 25 years. He knew Victor not well, but well enough. They'd talked over bolts and washers, told war stories over old radios. Dan saw the tension in the air, the disrespect, and he felt something heavy rise in his chest. He pulled out his phone, not to film, to call. "Yeah, this is Dan. I need to speak with someone at Fort Silverton. Military command, please. It's urgent." Back at the road, Officer Parks was now writing something in her notepad. "We're going to need you to come down to the station, sir. Possibly arrange for someone to pick you up. Don't have anyone." "That's part of the problem, isn't it?" Cruz said. Victor's jaw tightened. His silence wasn't weakness. It was restraint, the kind a man develops after decades of being underestimated and decades of training himself not to react. Across town, at Fort Silverton, the call was patched through. A young voice answered, "Lieutenant Grant speaking." "Lieutenant, this is Dan Miller, Ridgefield Hardware. I've got a situation." There's a man named Victor Kane being harassed by local police? He's one of yours. One of ours. Silence. Then, did you say Victor Kane? Yes. Another pause. A longer one. Then the voice shifted, sir. Keep eyes on him. We'll be there in less than 10 minutes, and do not let them take him anywhere. Dan's hand shook as he lowered the phone. He hadn't realized who Victor really was. Colonel Victor Kane. Victor Kane stood beside his bike, arms crossed behind his back like he was back on the parade ground. Calm, grounded, but the tension in the air had thickened like fog. The crowd was growing, drawn by the blue and red lights, by the sight of an old man being questioned like a criminal for riding a motorcycle. Officer Parks was still holding the notepad. We'll need to take you to the hospital. A quick evaluation, just to make sure everything's all right. Victor looked at her and said nothing. Behind the silence was a history so vast and violent that words could never fit it. He'd seen nations fall and rise. He'd lost friends, brothers, soldiers, buried too many of them to count. And now, here he was, being treated like a stray dog on the side of the road. Sir, if you don't cooperate, we'll be forced to. Escalate this. Escalate. The word floated in the air like a threat. But Victor had heard far worse. Don Miller stepped to the edge of the street, eyes fixed on Victor. He could feel it. Something was about to change. He whispered to a teen beside him, "Keep that phone pointed. Don't stop filming." And then it happened. The sound first, like distant thunder. Deep, rumbling engines from down the highway. Ed's turned. The road behind the gas station shimmered in the heat. But something was coming fast. Clouds of dust kicked up in the distance. Then shapes appeared. Big, heavy, tan-colored vehicles barreling down the road like a convoy on a mission. 12 Humvees. They didn't slow down until they were nearly on the scene. They fanned out in a tight semicircle, blocking the road from both directions. Doors flew open in unison. 50 soldiers stepped out, boots hitting the pavement with synchronized precision. The crowd gasped. Phones went up. Whispers turned into full-blown shock. From the lead vehicle, a single man stepped out. Army fatigues, chest full of ribbons, close-cropped gray hair, eyes like steel. He marched forward without hesitation, walking straight past Parks and Cruz like they didn't exist. He stopped 3 feet from Victor Kane, then raised his hand in a sharp, practiced salute. "Colonel Kane, sir." The title hit the air like a cannon. Blast. Parks blinked. "See, Colonel." Victor finally nodded, just once. Captain Farrell. Captain George Farrell, 22 years in the U.S. Army, 3 tours in the Middle East, leader of the Advanced Field Operations Unit stationed at Fort Silverton, turned slowly to face the officers. His voice was controlled, but it carried. Wait, who stopped Colonel Kane? Neither Parks nor Cruz spoke. Their mouths were open but empty. "I'll ask again," Farrell said. "Who dared to stop this man?" Cruz raised a shaky hand. "It was ... It was us. We didn't know who he was." Farrell's voice cut through him. "You didn't know because you didn't ask. You assumed. You profiled. You disrespected a man who's done more for this country than you'll do in a lifetime of traffic stops." He turned to the crowd now. This man, Colonel Victor Kane, served in 6 combat zones. He commanded elite recon units in Vietnam, led hostage rescue missions in Iraq, trained over 200 officers, including myself, and holds a Distinguished Service Cross and 3 Purple Hearts. The crowd was silent, still awed. He didn't just serve this country, he bled for it. And today, you questioned him like he was a shoplifter stealing candy bars. Parks' face flushed red. "Sir, we didn't intend." Farrell snapped around. "Intention doesn't undo insult." "Officer," then he softened, just slightly. "But maybe this is bigger than just 2 officers. Maybe it's a reminder." He stepped back toward Victor. "Colonel, with your permission, we'd like to escort you to town." Victor looked at him. No anger in his face, just that quiet patience again. Wasn't going to town anymore. Farrell smiled faintly. "Then we'll escort you home." But Victor raised a hand. "No need. I'll ride." And with that, he walked to his Royal Enfield, mounted it, kicked the engine to life with one smooth motion. The sound echoed across the town like a heartbeat returning. The soldiers stepped into formation. One by one, they stood along the sidewalk, creating a corridor of honor. Victor Kane rode slowly. Down the road, The town watched in silence. Even the wind seemed to pause. The bike moved between two lines of saluting soldiers, the engine humming like a hymn, a symbol of respect, of history, of dignity restored. As he disappeared down the road, the silence broke. Whispers turned into conversation, and Officer Rachel Parks just stood there, speechless. The phone footage already hitting the internet. The truth now visible to millions. But back at Fort Silverton, a conversation was already happening, the kind that doesn't stay within four walls. Back at the Ridgefield police station, the atmosphere was heavy. Sheriff Thomas Graves, a weathered man with 20 years in office, stared down at the phone in his hand. It buzzed once more, this time with an incoming call from Fort Silverton Command. Sheriff Graves, speaking. The voice on the other end was Captain Farrell's firm, respectful, but unmistakably serious. "Sheriff, we need to discuss the incident on Highway 17 this morning involving Colonel Victor Kane." Graves sighed, his mind flashing back to the tense scene. "Captain Farrell, I've already spoken with officers, Parks and Cruz. There." Shaken up, it was an unfortunate misunderstanding. "It's more than that," Farrell said. "This is about respect, about recognizing the sacrifices our veterans make and ensuring they are honored, not harassed." The sheriff nodded, though Farrell couldn't see it. "I agree, Captain. What do you propose?" "We're arranging a joint training program. Our personnel will work with your officers to better understand military culture, trauma, and the unique challenges veterans face. It's time we bridge this gap." Graves exhaled. "I'll make sure the department cooperates." Days later, at the Ridgefield precinct, the entire force gathered in the main hall. Officer Parks stood before her colleagues, nervous but determined. The weight of that day still lingered. "Last week," she began, "I made a mistake. I judged a man by his age and the look of his motorcycle. I didn't see the man behind the bike. I didn't see Colonel Victor Kane, a hero, a leader, and a friend to this country." She paused, eyes meeting those of her fellow officers. "This isn't just about procedures or protocols. It's about dignity, about respect, about humanity." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Meanwhile, miles away, Victor Kane was back on his farm. The John Deere tractor was repaired, the hydraulic seal replaced with care and precision only years of experience could provide. Enfield rested under the shade of a tall oak tree. The motorcycle had a story, just like him, one that refused to be forgotten. Rachel Parks, surprising herself, decided to pay a visit. She pulled onto the gravel driveway in her patrol car, heart pounding. The humility in her step was real. Victor looked up from under the tractor, wiping grease from his hands. "Officer Parks," he said quietly, "to what do I owe the visit?" She offered a small smile. "I wanted to say thank you for the lesson, for your patience." They talked for a while about life, service, and respect, about how sometimes the hardest battles are fought not on the field, but within ourselves. Arrival of the military convoy quickly spread online. Millions watched. The videos, debates sparked, opinions shifted. For many, it was a powerful reminder that behind every face is a story worth hearing, a history worth honoring. At Hidden Sparks, we bring you stories that illuminate the strength, the courage, and the humanity often hidden beneath the surface. Because sometimes, all it takes is a moment of understanding to change everything. If this story moved you, make sure to subscribe to Hidden Sparks and share it with those who need to hear it. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time,